No. No. Hi, everyone. Sothany Sad here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for the most harmful and problematic segment on this YouTube channel, the Why You Know Review, where I essentially talk about, in brief, a series of albums that I didn't get a chance to touch down on in a sort of full-length review this past month, but I kind of wanted to talk about them a little bit here, and yeah, you know, let's just try to get through this without hurting ourselves, shall we? Oh, wonderful ice cold melonade. It's all right. 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 But it could have been great if the production and the mixing were actually not so messy. It's like the breathy, soulless singing of Lana Del Rey set to circus music and dressed up in like some dollhouse clothes. We have another colorfully dressed, completely faceless pop star landing on top of a bunch of synthetic, overly atmospheric instrumentals with a voice that is totally unrecognizable and just nondescript, completely nondescript. Do we need another one of these? I know they're still doing a good job here, but I'm just not that into it. I think it's me. More overproduced indie prog. Yay! More color by the numbers metalcore. Yay! A pretty interesting turn of events here for Lee on this record. Rather than making electronic music, hip-hop music, or many of the other genres of music that he's produced in the past, he is a very versatile producer. He's actually making some pretty experimental electronic music here, as well as ambient music, and each track on this record reads a lot like the cover of this album. A very crisp, close, gorgeous photo with vibrant colors, but you can't quite make out exactly what it is or what it's trying to do. Some of the songs on here are pretty enthralling, pretty beautiful, but many other tracks in the track listing here just kind of feel like these fleeting motifs that don't really strike me as interesting in any kind of significant way. I'm glad that Lee is experimenting, though I just don't think this album is like enthralling from beginning to end. Some pretty cool and mostly very chill and melodic math rock on this record with some decent vocals here and there. Felt maybe a little underwhelming across the length of the whole record, though I know there are a lot of other people out there that appreciate math rock much more than I do. So I do want to give this album kind of a little endorsement here and say do check this out if you are into math rock, because there are some legitimately beautiful and cool moments in the track listing here, and the playing is very solid. The instrumentals on this album are very intricate. However, they don't take the virtuosity of their playing in these songs so far that the performances actually become annoying or anything like that. It's not bad. How do I download this? Do I have to put my address in here? I don't really want to. This is the latest album from a very prolific black metal project whose sound typically is incredibly noisy, hideous, and kind of disturbing sometimes. Although on this record, in this instance, we actually hear some guest and arranged instrumentation thrown into the mix, specifically from some pretty heavily layered string sections. Although with the kind of messy, smudgy recording that you might find on a Gnaw Their Tongues record, the strings really kind of end up canceling out some of the ferocity and some of the abrasiveness that you typically get out of this project, but also the strings kind of feel canceled out by the ugliness of the guitars and aren't really recorded or mixed that well, so they sound kind of muddy. It just kind of seems like the two major elements here on this record are kind of working against each other rather than enhancing one another. This is a pretty decent pop rock record, a lot like his debut album, which I surprisingly liked and put on my year-end list at the end of the year despite having not reviewed it, and occasionally return to because I think it is a very good pop rock record. And this one runs the same, although I don't really particularly feel all that drawn to it at the moment. Maybe I'm not really in the mood for it, but I also think it has a lot to do with how overproduced this album sounds. This guy is a singer-songwriter who's not just a little bit country, but also a little bit rock and roll. And they've got kind of a vintage recording style to this record over here that reads a lot like Alabama Shakes when they first came out, and a lot like Alabama Shakes. I think they have a lot going for them, although I think they do kind of drown in their vintage aesthetic a little bit and don't bring forward that strong of a personality. Although I think that could be very easily alleviated with some stronger songs and some stronger vocal performances too, with a little bit more personality, something a little more distinct or a little bit more animalistic or a little more wild. There are a few decent singles off of this thing, and yeah, I mean, I hope that they just come out with more vibrant music on their next release. And that is the Why You Know review this time. That was pretty painless. Cool. Transition. Have you given any of these records a listen? If you have, did you love them? Did you hate them? Why? And what do you think I should review next? Anthony Fantano, Why You Know Review, forever.